Okay, this is why we're really here this morning, is to welcome our opening keynote speaker, Jody Moore. Yes, you can give a woohoo. I'm so excited. I've followed her podcast for years, and it just feels like we have a celebrity in the room, but we know that we're all just regular people with regular emotions. Anyhow, after having her first 2 kids, Jody Moore struggled with the work-life balance, embracing motherhood, and even liking herself. As an active member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, she felt guilty for not loving the role of mother and wife and turned to life coaching for help. The transformation she experienced not only helped her at work and at home, but it strengthened her testimony of Christ, leading her to dive into learning the tools of coaching and to leave her position as a corporate leadership coach to launch her own coaching practice. Jody is certified through the Life Coach School and completed Master Coach certification in 2018. Today, as an LDS life coach, Jody has helped tens of thousands of people through her top-rated podcast, Better Than Happy, as well as her coaching membership program, Be Bold. She has 4 children, ages 8 through 17. She resides in Spokane, Washington with them, her husband, her French bulldog Finn, a mini Cavapoo Milo, and a cat named Oscar. Jody, we're so excited to have you here. We turn the time over to you.
Thank you so much for having me. There's such a nice spirit here today, and I'm just very honored and grateful to be here with all of you on a Friday morning. Have you ever noticed how there are some people who are just kind of unhappy people, right? Like, no matter what, they find something to complain about, and you feel bad for them because it seems like things never really work out for them, but also sometimes you're like, come on. Like, they're going to be unhappy no matter what, right? Do you know people like this? Is someone coming to mind? Is it you? It's okay if so. Okay, and then there are other people, I don't know if you've noticed, I met some this morning, who are just like so happy. Maybe they're really energetic because they're extroverts and you just know when you ask them how they're doing, they're going to say amazing, and they really mean it. Or maybe they're introverts and it just looks like that they're super laid back and nothing really stresses them out, and they just kind of live, more stable than some of the rest of us. Those people, it seems like anything they touch turns to gold, and that they're just always winning and succeeding at life, right? You know people like this? Kind of hate them a little bit? All right. Well, what if I told you that I'm going to teach you, I can teach you in the next 40 minutes here how to be that second kind of person, even if you're the first kind of person. I'm going to teach you how, because it's not just the way some people are. It's actually a skill that you can learn. And not only is it more fun to live that way, to just feel more stable and peaceful and confident, but it also will help you live a really big, amazing life. Now, I know some of you are like, well, I don't need a big life, Jody Moore. I'm very content with my simple life. I just want all my kids to be happy. And I just want to tell you that that's a really dangerous thing to wish for, okay? Because your kids need space to be unhappy. And they're going to make mistakes, and they're going to sometimes need to struggle. And when we just want them all to be happy, we actually become passive-aggressive or manipulative or controlling. And it often doesn't even work. They're still unhappy, and then we're just frustrated. So what I want to offer you today is to take what I'm going to give you here and just apply it first and foremost to yourself, okay? And when you master it, you'll naturally start teaching it and offering it to the other people that you have influence on in your life. Now, the way we're going to approach this is through these 2 key relationships that will help you be that second kind of person. So before I tell you what they are, I want to tell you a little story. So 5 or so years ago, I decided to write a book, but not because I like writing, actually. I can write okay, but it requires a lot of focus, and I actually just like talking. I'm a really good talker. I think I got that from my mom, okay? And there was this conference that was put on that traveled all over the country. It was for women, and it was a conference that I'd been to several times myself. I really loved it. And when I started being a life coach, I knew that that conference would be a great place to share my work, and I thought it would be fun to be up on that stage speaking at that conference. And so when I researched it, they said, well, it's put on by a certain publishing company, who shall remain nameless, and you have to publish a book with that publishing company to speak at their conference, because it's actually just marketing, and they sell their books in the back of the room, right? So I was like, oh, writing a book doesn't sound as fun as talking. But after having my business for several years and growing my podcast and developing my work, I got an email one day from a woman named Celia, and she said, I'm with this publishing company, and I'm responsible for finding authors and developing content and finding books we can publish. Have you ever thought of writing a book? And I said, yes, I have thought about writing a book. And I said, in fact, I really want to speak at your conference. If I write a book with you, can I speak there? And she said, let's do it. So we started working together, and Celia helped me. She was so amazing. We fleshed out an outline and decided we would call it Better Than Happy, because that was my podcast, and that's how most people knew me. And then I would write chapters and send them to her, and she would give me input and send them back, and I would edit them and write more. And if this sounds tedious, you have no idea. It was like, wow, the hardest year of my life. But we went back and forth for about a year like this, and at one point Celia said, we have a marketing meeting at my agency, and I'm going to take your idea. And she came back and said, everybody loved it so much. They're really excited about this book. I think they're more excited about like the 25 million downloads on my podcast that might sell the book. But anyway, she said, they want to do merch, right? So I think they meant like journals and pens, but I was picturing like a Jody Moore Barbie doll. Anyway, that hasn't happened yet. Anyway, so this was so exciting, and Celia really did help me make the book better than it ever would have been with her insight and feedback. And finally, we got this manuscript to a good enough point that she said, and now I'm going to take this to the board meeting. And after the board meeting, then we'll know like dates of when it's going to be released, and we can start talking about the cover and all that fun stuff, right? And so she went to the board meeting, and then the next day I got the email that said subject line news. And she said, everybody loves your book, and they just wanted me to tell you how well written it is and how well researched, and they just appreciate how you share your testimony of Christ. And the president of our company wants you to know that she's been using the model that you teach in that book, and it's really changed her life. And that's why it was just so disappointing to hear that we're going to pass on publishing your book. This was me on that day. She explained that there were just some people who weren't sure about life coaching, and it's really hard to change perceptions. And so they didn't feel comfortable publishing my book. Now, what do you do when you get news like this? You tell someone, right? So I was like, okay, who do I go to first? I could go to my husband. He's like a really positive guy, And I knew he might say something like, well, I can understand. They probably mean well. And I wasn't ready to hear that, right? I could call my mom, but she's one of those people who wants her kids to always be happy. And I knew she would try to tell me to look on the bright side. And I wasn't ready to hear that. And so I called my sister. And I told her what had just happened. And she said, let's go slash their tires. And that's exactly what I wanted to hear. Now, the publisher, Celia, in her email, went on to explain to me that while they didn't feel they could publish my book, they had these sister brands, and they wanted to send the manuscript to one of them. And she said, they'll publish it, it'll be in our catalog and in our stores, nobody will even know the difference. How do you feel about that? And what I heard was, we still want to make money off your book, we just don't want to back your book. And so I very politely said, I appreciate you so much, Celia, and no hard feelings, but I don't think this is going to be the right fit. And so I walked away, and we didn't slash any tires. And 2 weeks later, I got an email from a gentleman named Thomas McConkie. Maybe some of you know of him. He's a brilliant author, and spiritual guru. And he said that I knew him because he'd come on my podcast, and he said that he was working with an organization called Faith Matters, and Bill Turnbull, who's one of the founders, wanted to meet me, and would it be okay if he email introduced us? And I said, sure. And Bill said to me, hey, at Faith Matters, we just opened up a publishing arm of our business, and we just published a couple books. Can I send them to you? And if you like them, maybe you would mention them on your podcast. And I said, sure, send me your books, Bill. And also, I have a book that needs publishing. Would you care to read it? And he said, yes, send it right over. And so, long story short, I worked with Faith Matters, and they were the perfect place, turns out, to publish my book. You can see in the upper left-hand corner of that slide, my book was in Costco for a little while, only in Utah and Idaho. And so people kept sending me pictures of my book next to Stephen King's with a bestseller sticker on it. I don't know how Costco determines what's a bestseller, but we had a billboard on the Wasatch Front, so I felt very official. We had a big book launch party. It was a really exciting time, and I was really proud of that book. And then not long after that, I got another email from the original said publishing company. I'm sure you have no idea who it is. And this time it was from a woman named Michelle. And Michelle said, hey, I am in charge of the women's conference that goes all over the country speaking, and I know we were unable to publish your book, and that was kind of a rough experience, but we love your message and we need your voice. Would you consider speaking at our conference? And I said, let me think about it for a minute. Okay, yeah, I'm in. Now, what do you do when something like that happens? You tell someone. So I thought about telling my sister, but she was going through some challenges in her business, and it kind of felt like I would be, rubbing her nose in it, and didn't feel quite right to expect her to be excited for me when she was struggling. And I thought about calling my mom, but I knew she would have like 50 million questions that I wouldn't be able to answer yet, and then I would just be really annoyed by the end of the call, so not calling her. And so this time I went to my husband and told him the good news, and I was so excited, and he was so excited for me, and he's always supported and believed in me. Now, the reason I'm telling you this story is because we know that relationships are a really important part of our overall mental health and wellness. There are tons of studies that say that the quality of our relationships determines our happiness and even our longevity. And I've asked myself many times, why is this? What is it about relationships that are so important? What do we get out of them that helps us so much? And how do we get even more of that in our lives? And one of the things I've determined is that relationships really provide a place for us to feel seen and heard and validated. And that if we focus on two key relationships, then our entire life gets better. Our mental health goes up, but we also achieve goals, and all of our other relationships get better. Oh, I forgot to tell you the end of the story. This is the best part, okay? So at the conference I went and spoke at, right, with the publishing company, the publisher, while they didn't publish my book, they did still sell my book. They carried my book. Which means they make about maybe $1 a book instead of maybe $5 per book if they would have published it, right? And the women running the bookstore in the back of the conference said, every time we run out of your books, they keep selling out. And I was like, I know. I mean, you should have published it probably, right? Actually, that part I didn't say out loud. I kept it inside. But it was so amazing speaking at that conference. But let's talk about, again, your two most important relationships are your relationship with your past self and your relationship with your future self. Okay? It's your relationship with you that is the most important relationship that I want to teach you how to focus on today. It's what makes you the kind of person that's really happy or more laid back. And here's the thing. I think we all want to be confident, right? We all know this. It feels... Oh, Okay, we'll take that as a sign of something. I don't know if it's good or bad. We all know that it feels good to be confident, and also that it helps us achieve goals and get along with others, but many people tell me they don't know how, and I didn't know how either for years until I started separating myself into 3 parts. Me today, present me in the past, and me in the future. Okay, so first let's make sure we remember what makes for a good relationship. Good relationships have some key elements, right? We pay attention to one another. Now, by the way, not all of your relationships are amazing probably, so don't use this as a checklist of like, yeah, my marriage is struggling. Okay, you only need actually a couple of good relationships to maintain really optimal mental health. But we pay attention. We give each other some time and attention and hear each other out. We support one another. We believe in one another, right? We comfort each other sometimes when we're struggling. We validate emotions. We remind the other person it's okay, it's valid how you're feeling right now or what you're experiencing. There's authenticity in our best relationships, so we can tell each other the truth and be honest, and we feel like we're getting the truth from the other person. We believe in one another, and there's somewhat a level of accountability. If I say I'm going to be somewhere on time, for the most part, I show up on time-ish, like accountability. This is what makes for good relationships with others, and this is also what makes for a good relationship with yourself. Okay? So first I want you to think about your relationship with your past self. How would you describe it? Now, when I say your past self, I mean yourself 20 years ago, yourself 10 years ago, yourself last year, and the last night version of you that either went to bed on time or stayed up too late. How do you talk to and think about that version of you? If you're like most people, you would describe it as mean. It's downright nasty or bullying, we would even say, the way we talk to our past selves, right? I was just coaching a young man in his mid-20s. He's a new client of mine, and he said that he's had some struggles in the past, and his therapist recommended that he make some new friends, some different friends. So he said to me, I'm trying to make new friends, but it's really hard to do. I'm putting myself out there and trying to meet people, and it's just not happening. And I'm really discouraged about it. And I said, well, what are you making it mean that you haven't found new friends yet? And he said, maybe I'm just not the kind of guy that can be friends with good people. I was like, now listen, I actually, like Esterly said, I lived in Spokane, but 2 months ago, I moved to Southern California. And I don't really have a lot of friends there yet either. And I asked this young man, would you say to me, well, maybe, Jody, you're just not the kind of girl that can have friends? And he's like, no, of course, I would never say that to you. I'm like, right, but you say it to yourself, right? And that's what we do. The things we say to ourselves are terribly mean for the most part. So when we acknowledge this and recognize it, and everybody always says, yes, I know, I shouldn't be so mean to myself, but then they say, it's just really hard to stop, though. I don't know how to stop. And what I want to offer to you today is that that's a lie that you believe, that it's hard to stop. It's not hard to stop. It's actually just a decision that you make, and I want to recommend you make it right here with me this morning, okay? It's like if I have a son who is really mean to his little sister, and he's constantly telling her that she's a loser and she's worthless and she's never going to succeed and on and on. At some point, as the mother, I say, that's enough, okay? That's not allowed. You don't talk to your sister that way anymore, starting right now. And I expect my child to be able to do that. And I want to offer to you that you have that same ability to just decide that enough is enough. And you're done talking to yourself that way. Now, then the next question I get is, okay, so what's the alternative? Because it's never occurred to us that we could just be kind in our heads. What does that even sound like? Most of us didn't have models and examples of that. So do I just think positively? Okay, I should focus on the positive things I did and not so much on the negative. And I say, kind of, but also you got to be real. Remember, the best relationships are authentic and real. We can tell each other the truth. So if you stayed up too late last night, instead of going, I'm such an idiot, what's the matter with me? Why do I do that? By the way, when you ask a question like that, your brain answers with, because you're a loser, because you suck, because, like, just not helpful things, right? So instead of that, you say something like, hey, Jody, I'm pretty tired today. because you stayed up a little too late last night. I'm not mad at you, though. I love you. Was it fun? Did you do something fun? I hope you had fun. And I'm willing to be tired for you today. That's how much I love you. It's okay. But let's keep this in mind maybe next time we have to give a talk at 9 a.m., you know? It sounds like that. It sounds real. And it's not that we don't hold ourselves accountable, but we are kind about it. It's such a novel idea. Okay, when you do this, though, what you will do is give yourself reasons instead of excuses. We want to know reasons. When I ask myself, hey, you know those two apple cider cinnamon donuts from Trader Joe's you ate yesterday? Because those are really good when you warm them up at the microwave for like 10 seconds. And you ate two? I don't feel great now. But again, I'm not mad at you, but just a reminder that you're almost 50 and your body doesn't tolerate that like it used to. But what's going on? What was that about? Because I thought we had this understanding that like one donut's enough from now on. And maybe I misunderstood. Maybe we don't really feel that way. But tell me. Or is there something else going on you want me to know about? And instead of getting an excuse like, well, you know, they were just there and they only have them at Halloween in the fall at Trader Joe's and they're going to be gone, so what was I supposed to do? Right? We can give ourselves excuses all day. But when you're really kind to yourself, you find out reasons. Reasons like, yeah, I'm really kind of lonely right now, or I'm feeling unfulfilled and restless, or I'm kind of stressed about this thing going on at home, and sometimes donuts feel like a good solution to that. And then I can connect with myself and go, oh, okay, that's cool. Maybe we should figure out the loneliness. Maybe we should figure out the stress. I'm going to help you. I want to help you. Okay, this is what happens when you build a healthy relationship with your past self. Now, don't forget, your past self also does a lot of really amazing things. Okay, your past self actually got up this morning and got here and got dressed and didn't even, as far as I know, nobody got in a car accident or flipped anyone off. Somebody probably flipped someone off, but no, most of you didn't on the way. And then you smiled at people and you've been winning and being your best self all morning. That is the majority of what your past self does. But most people never take the time to mention it, which doesn't make for a strong relationship. My husband's really good at this with our kids. We'll get in the car to go to church, and he'll say things like, thanks, kids, for getting up and getting ready, and getting in the car to go to church today. And I'm thinking, isn't that just like a given? We all have to do that? No, he'll thank them. And you can thank your past self as well, okay? So I want you to try this. Maybe you've had a toxic relationship with your past self and you need to heal it. Take just a minute and do like an overall grand sweeping of how amazing you are, because you are amazing. You didn't have anything to do with it, by the way. You're a child of God. God created you. Your worth is just a done deal. You don't need to earn anybody's love or approval, especially not your own, okay? So do a grand sweeping overall, like, this is 8-year-old Jody. Hey, girl, you were so scared to go outside to recess. Thanks for getting through elementary school. Well done. And teenage Jody, man, high school was rough, right? But you did it, and you went to seminary at 6 a.m. in the freezing cold, and I mean, so many things, right? And young mom Jody that tried a brunette phase. That was hard having 2 little kids back to back. And thank you for marrying Jake and not some of those other guys that you dated. I'm so proud of you. You could go on, right, about all the amazing things that you've done, and just take a minute and heal your relationship. Like, I know I have not been kind to you, and starting now, that's it. Enough's enough. Okay? And then also, you need to have a regular practice. I highly recommend this, a regular practice of connecting with your past self. I do this when I'm brushing my teeth. That's why this woman's brushing her teeth. I do it at the end of every day as I'm brushing my teeth. I look at myself in the mirror, and I either say something like, hey, great job today. Thank you for getting that project done. I feel so relieved right now. Thank you for hooking me up that way. Or I say, hey, tough day today, huh? Are you all right? I mean, we really lost the plot today. But you know what? I love you. Tomorrow's a new day. If you need to tell me anything, you know I'm here to listen. every day. It takes 30 seconds, and it will literally change the way you will feel on a regular basis. Now, let's not forget about your future self. Who are you going to be in the future? Do you ever even talk to your future self? Think about him or her? Connect with him or her? Because I highly recommend that you do. Dr. Benjamin Hardy is one of my teachers and mentors, and he's an organizational psychologist and author who teaches that most people use their past to determine their present, right? Think about a traditional organization. They'll say things like, well, we made $50 million last year. Let's see if we can make $52 million this year. We take our past and decide maybe we could improve just a little bit, and that's how we determine what we're going to do in the present. Dr. Hardy says this is the wrong way to go about it. What we need to be doing is using our future to determine our present. He recommends that you think about who do you want to be on October 25th, 2025. What will your health look like? What will your money look like? What do you want your relationships to look like? And you use that. He even recommends that you ask yourself, who do I want to be on January 1st, 2025? And you use that information to determine who you will be and what you will do in the present. Future. You have to connect with your future self. That's future me, obviously. My hair extensions held up really nicely, thank goodness. I talk to her all the time. I ask her questions like, what do you need? And she tells me things like, I would like to be able to still go for walks, so can you go easy on the knees and the donuts? And I would like to be able to travel and go see my kids, so can you not buy so many clothes right now? You're not going to care about that at my age. You're going to want the money instead. Stop spending money. I talk to her all the time, and then I let her help me make decisions about who I'm being right now. The reason this is so hard to do is because our present selves operate from the motivational triad. We want to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and conserve energy. That is what present Jody wants. Like, what would be easy and fun and not painful? That's what I'd prefer to do. And far too many of us are walking around letting the motivational triad make way too many of our decisions, instead of letting our future self knows that some pain today is useful in the long run. And some foregoing of pleasure is useful in the long run. And spending energy on the right things is useful. So we have to override that part of us. So Jim Carrey did this, a version of this. Maybe you've heard this story. In 1985, when he was a struggling comedic actor, he wrote himself a check for $10 million. And on the for line said, for acting services rendered. And he dated it 10 years in the future. And in 1995, exactly 10 years later, he was offered $10 million for the movie The Mask. This is the power of connecting with your future self and even choosing things that sound ridiculously impossible. You're capable of far more than you think, but you're going to have to connect with your future self. Here's a way that you can do it. First of all, journaling about what you want. What do you want? Don't tell yourself, I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm not educated enough, it's not possible for me, whatever, all the excuses, we just set them aside. We're just writing in a journal. What I really, really, really want is this, because what you want will change and evolve, and that's okay. But second of all, we need a regular practice of it as well. I do it when I'm brushing my teeth in the morning. Every morning when I brush my teeth, I talk to my future self. I say, hey, Jody, today's going to be a full day, but I got you. We're going to show up, and you're not going to want to do it. You're not going to want to record the podcast. You're not going to want to go work out. But I'll be there with you, and next week me, tomorrow me, actually even, will thank us. So, are you in? I'm not doing things because I hate myself anymore. I'm doing them because of how much I love myself. It changes everything. These are my kids. And the youngest, Taylor, we have this tradition in our family where whoever's turn it is to say the bedtime prayer, because we say prayers together at night before we go to bed, whoever's turn it is, we all go around the family and we say why we love that person. And not long ago, it was Taylor's turn. We were all saying why we love Taylor. And then we said, okay, Taylor, go ahead and say the prayer. And she said, wait, I didn't tell you why I love me. And I said, yes, please tell me. Why do you love you? We have to make it safe for our kids to love themselves. We don't need to shut it down with like, now don't be bragging, don't get too big for your britches. Like we say things like that in the name of teaching humility, but in my opinion, humility is you are so amazing and worthy and complete and lovable, and you had nothing to do with it. It's because God created you, and everyone else is equally amazing and lovable and valuable beyond what we can even comprehend. And we have to start embracing that. We say we believe that, but do we believe that about us? Because I believe that if we truly love God as we claim to, then that means we love all of his creations, right? If I say, I love Elon Musk, but I hate Teslas and Cybertrucks, it makes no sense. If I say, I'm a big Swiftie, I love Taylor Swift, I just hate all the songs she's created, that doesn't make sense. If I love God, I love his creations, and I'm one of his creations. And the better job I do at loving me, the better I show up for everyone else because I don't even have to think about me so much. So these are my final thoughts. Your past version of you, I promise, hooked you up. Make sure you thank him or her. Your future you has amazing insight and wisdom. Future me always says, it's gonna be fine, stop worrying. So listen, past you needs your forgiveness. Because past you also did a lot of dumb stuff. But you can just choose to forgive past you. And future you needs your strength. So please go all in for future you. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time and attention today.